Okay, Mike Masato, CEO of Staff Driven Dental and the Dental Road Warrior, returning in for episode 55 of the series. So today I want to talk about statistics and tracking statistics, keeping numbers in your practice. To this day, I don't understand what the aversion is that most docs have to tracking numbers in their practice. It's just like one of those things you don't want to look at for whatever reason, and they don't put a lot of attention on. Maybe it's because we all hated that course in college, and now I hated it. I left it in my senior year. It was a big mistake, but I dreaded every second of it. But really, when it comes to your practice, you need to keep and track statistics. All right, so let me give you some basics on statistics. This doesn't have to be a complicated thing. Look, I know a lot of companies out there are stat happy. And the reason why they're stat happy is because that's all they got. And they figure if, they sound really important by tracking all your numbers, and getting all this mass compilation of data, and they crunch all the numbers and they come back to you with these complex readouts of everything and reports, that you'll be sufficiently amazed and scared to do something about it. The problem is the more complicated you make keeping statistics and trying to understand these numbers, the less likely you are to do it. And the less likely your staff is to be engaged in wanting to track the numbers. So, you have to keep this simple and easy to understand, and it has to be something that the staff enjoy doing and tracking as well. So they need to understand what these numbers mean and how to track them for you. Because any program I do, and you should be doing this in your practice, involves having a bonus system, an incentive program put together based on the understanding and tracking of numbers in the practice. All right, so you can't have a bonus system in place unless there's some kind of numbers that the staff is tracking, monitoring, and impacting on your behalf. Right, just don't give a bonus, for arbitrarily, emotionally things doing better or feeling good, or just when overall numbers hit, without them having any understanding or role in getting there. Right, so I want the staff to be engaged in tracking numbers, understanding what these numbers mean. First of all, we need to understand what statistics are, and they really are a simple definition is they're numerical data that's used to qualify and quantify the capability of success and continuing effectiveness of your practice. All right. So, and without them, there's no basis of comparison for anything. See, statistics is comparative data. It's like, how do we do in collections, last month as compared to this month, or last year as compared to this year, as one example. New patients this month as opposed to new patients last month. It's a basis of comparison, right? And you need to track them on a daily basis. This can't be something that you look at, once in a blue moon, like once a year, once a quarter. When my accountant gets back to me, and I know I talked about this before with the bad news about how we're doing, it shouldn't be a surprise. The statistics should never be a surprise in your practice. They should be something that you track and are aware of at all times, all right? And they need to be reviewed by the entire team, and they need to be updated, and they need to be analyzed, and they need to be acted upon accordingly based on the information they provide. You can't just look at the numbers and ignore them. They tell you a story, and then you have to look inside the numbers and say, what's causing these numbers to go up or down? And if the numbers are going down, well, we have to do something to push them up and get them doing well. And if you are doing well and the numbers are solid, the big mistake that a lot of us make is look at these statistics and say, wow, this is fantastic. This is great. And we do nothing to strengthen what we've done, or look at these things and say, hey, how did these numbers get here? And let's keep doing more of that and adding to that so they can do better and better. We get very comfortable around positive numbers. So don't take positive numbers and positive statistics for granted. Look inside those numbers and see what's causing that positive impact, and do something to have a plan to strengthen those numbers. Not just when there's a panic when things are down and things are bad. All right. And by the way, numbers are either going up or going down. Nothing ever stays the same in practice, in life. Just look at that. All right. You have to look at that. Is it getting better or is it getting worse based on what these statistics are doing? And if you're seeing a trend, well, pretty much everything's in the same area, and it's pretty much maintaining. Look, you're in for a crash soon enough. You just can't. Nothing stays the same. Sooner or later, something's going to go, and it's usually the downward. If you just stay floating in the same area, because essentially, if you're making the numbers are staying the same. Right. Underneath, what I found is that things are basically sooner or later are going to catch up with you because you're not growing. You have to grow. In the practice, there's attrition in all areas of practice at all times. So you need to be doing things to compensate for those things, whether it's adding more new patients or increasing patient visits and your base number of patients in the practice, things like that. All right. So so you have to understand why it's so important to track these statistics, and you can't be. I don't keep do it complicated. Look at the basic ones. Track production, track collections, track new patients, track treatment presented and treatment accepted. Two very basic statistics that are not often tracked in a practice. Treatment presented and accepted tell us a very big story of how we're doing in terms of revenue projections coming into the practice. Patients and hygiene. So there's about 7 or 8 that I track, and they will basically be the core statistics that will help impact a lot of other statistics. And sometimes it's also good to track what I call sub-product statistics, or statistics underneath those. So if you're tracking new patients, for example, there are various ways you get new patients in the practice. And you should look at the statistics for each one of those things, because I often ask, well, how's your marketing doing in your practice? Well, we get this. I said, well, where are they coming from? And they kind of guess where they're coming from. And we're spending a lot of money on this. So, well, is it working? Well, I guess so. We get to track the numbers for everything you do. So if you're looking at a statistic, for example, new patients, and let's say we're looking at we did some kind of internet marketing thing that we done out there. We want to track, number of calls, number scheduled, number arrived, number converted, right? And then that tells a story. Each of those statistics tell a story under each of those of how well that particular marketing thing did. Now, you can do this with any statistic to break it down further. And again, I can help set up that with my clients. I do that all the time, so they understand how to track the statistics and look inside the numbers. All right, so there's the greater numbers and there's sub numbers under that. Right, so the procedure is kind of simple for putting statistics in for your practice. Assign a statistic to a relevant position of employment in your practice. So you give the hygiene has certain statistics to keep. The front desk has certain statistics to keep. Assistants can keep certain statistics. There are certain statistics on you. You look at each area of practice and assign a certain specific that's important or relevant to that area that you want to track. You put a person in charge of that area to track those things. Who's in charge? The main person of tracking these statistics for that area. Have the person be responsible for keeping the statistics in that area. So they're now in charge now. Whoever was overseeing it, all right, in charge of that area, has to submit and track those statistics for us to look over, whether you're doing it at a staff meeting, whether at a coaching meeting, a morning huddle, whenever you have these meetings, you're going over them on a regular basis. I mean, we look at numbers. By the way, all my practices look at their numbers every morning at the morning huddle. We're always looking at some kind of statistics and reviewing how we're doing as a practice from day to day. And the good thing is that you're staying engaged in the game of knowing what's going on in the practice. You're seeing what's happening from day to day, and eventually hour to hour in the practice when you really get into it. And that's how you can have a major impact on the practice. Not saying, hey, a month just went by, how'd we do? Well, it doesn't matter how we did. Because if we did bad, what are we going to do? We can't go back in time and fix it. The month is gone. All right, so we want to be tracking and being engaged and aware of what's going on with our statistics on a team basis, day to day. All right, and then always award or have some kind of bonus or incentive plan for doing the job well done and hitting numbers. You always want to award up statistics in a practice. You never want to award down statistics. Be very careful about this. And you just don't want to start giving people bonuses and incentives. If you're losing money and not putting money in your pocket, but they're getting bonuses, not a good thing. If revenue's down from the year before and you're giving out bonuses still, not a good thing, right? People have to understand that, and when they're aware that it is a business and there are certain financial indicators that we have to hit, the corporate America works the same way, right? If you're not hitting numbers, the shareholders aren't happy and heads will roll. All right, so in your case, in your practice, same kind of thing. It's a little corporation there, and people have to understand that if there's numbers they're responsible for and we ain't hitting them, they're not going to get rewarded for not hitting them, right? And there'll be a penalty. The penalty is not getting bonus, and if it gets really bad, penalties, you may not have a job, all right? So it's very important to understand this concept of statistics and track statistics and monitor them in the practice. Because, again, if you're not aware, right, of what's going on with your business and are not tracking those things, before you know it, you're not going to have a business that's generating for you the way you want to. All right. So again, it's very simple video trying to explain statistics and the importance of them. right? But it is a core thing that we set up for all of our practice, and that you should have some way of tracking on a regular basis. Again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be like mass amounts of spreadsheets and data that's overwhelming and everything. We do ours on a simple Excel sheet that we set up and just plug in values, so we can calculate them from day to day. You do the same with your practice, and you'll find out that when you have an awareness of things, then something can be done in your practice to make things going in the right direction and impact numbers in a positive way. All right, so I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying this series, as always, please share it, and I'll be back with another episode soon.